นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอภารุธาเดสังฆมัทธัสสะทาวราเยโสรวันทาบมุญชันทุสัทธัง This evening it's the Uposatha fortnightly recitation, the new moon or the no moon, and so let's see the psychological significance of this fortnightly kind of determination. If you've been doing it for 45 years, like 45 years like I've been doing, at first it seemed like this merely kind of perfunctory traditional ceremony, but over the years it has its kind of effect, in the sense of like cleaning the slate or wiping the slate clean every fortnight, because we accumulate, we get caught in doubts or about our behavior, speech, and our discipline, so forth. So then the fortnightly confession, and then the recitation of Hadimokha, or the Sila, taking the Sila, is a way of reminding ourselves. It's a ceremony, so it is done in a ceremonial fashion. So this means that it's a kind of, it has a tradition behind it. It's not just individual kind of adaptation or views or opinions. Ceremonies are something that modern life doesn't really appreciate very much, because it's such an age for, kind of thumbing your nose at tradition, ceremonies, old-fashioned customs, and things of the past. And everything is about progress and change and renewing and improving. But a society without ceremony, then of course it becomes a kind of each one for themselves. It lacks a certain grace and dignity and quality that tradition offers, and ceremonies help us to remind ourselves that isn't just some kind of personal interest in life, but the commitments we've made, the tradition we're in, and the goal, the aim, the purpose of our life. And so we use this old-fashioned language, Pali language, because even though we have translations, because it kind of preserves that ceremonial tradition. It has a kind of grace and dignity, beauty to it. At least this is how I see it. I remember going to, years ago, to a Buddhist community when I first came to England, set up on modern principles, of just sitting meditation, no Buddha rupas, no incense, no ceremonies, no Pali, no precepts, nothing but just sit and meditate, and then it's all about freedom. And so this idea of being free and meditation is very much, the kind of appeal of the certain mind, the European or Western mindset. But it was a pretty hopeless situation, didn't last very long, because there's nothing to hold it together, and just sitting is not enough, is it? It's just, sitting quietly, and then there is no kind of sense of duties or commitment to anything other than one's own freedom and views and opinions. It is a time where, it has its advantages, not to, diminish or criticize the time as if, and just see it as in negative terms, because certainly there's, good things happening. But also, it has its own problems, because individuality and personal views and opinions, human rights, and so forth have, that's not to be despised, but they also have their dark side, in the sense that we create we get too self-important, we take ourselves too seriously. Our lives, we see everything too personally, and from an ideal that we personally adhere to. And of course that, sometimes we can't even laugh at ourselves, because we're so deadly serious about my opinion and what I think and my rights and so forth, that we become dull and stupid by these fixed ideas and our self-importance. Humor is one thing. Here in Britain, they do have a good sense of humor. So some of the British humor is very funny, because it is making fun of themselves, or being British or English, things like this. Because when we take ourselves too seriously, like our nationality or our position or anything, then it becomes grotesque, isn't it? We fit into a kind of grotesque mask of self-importance and deadly seriousness. The world is absurd, the machinations and the conceits and arrogance of human beings is an absurdity. And so, just to get a taste of the world, I found this very useful way of contemplating the world. Worldly dhammas has a certain flavor to it. It's never quite right. There's always something a bit off. It's doesn't really satisfy. There's always a sense of worry or something going wrong, or not some problems, imminent danger, or fear of failure, or regrets and guilt and so forth. That is the taste of the world. Lokya Dhamma. It's the world tastes like this. It always leaves you dissatisfied and anxious, and feeling that something's lacking, something's missing. And even at its best, even at its peak moments, where everything is just what one wants in the moment, you can't sustain a peak moment. The conditioned realm has peak moments where everything is, everything's just what I want, everything's perfect, couldn't be better. But you can't sustain that. Conditioned phenomena at its peak means that it's, going the other direction. It rises up, and then the peak moment, and then it has only one way to go, and that's down. So this inhalation, exhalation, this changing, birth and death, rebirth, and death is the result of birth. And so this is, if we were never born, we would never die. Right? It's just good logic, isn't it? So the cause of death is birth. Then ignorance, human ignorance, not understanding this, then we tend to we think that birth should be, there shouldn't be death, that there should be birth. We like the idea of birth and peak moments and the best. We'd like to have life always at its best, at its peak, at its most beautiful, most pleasing, most sense of secure safety and love and kindness and all the highest possible ideal that one can conceive of. But you notice the Devadutas, or the messengers, were not about beautiful babies and romance and love and all that, but about old age, sickness and death. And so this is, because this side of the spectrum is not what we like, it's the downhill slide, the decaying process, the aging, the sickness, pain, loss. So the taste of the world is the taste of loss, of grief, of sickness, old age. Because one leads to the other. The birth, the youth, the beauty reaches peak, and then all that's left to us is the other side. And so the Buddha was pointing to that by not penetrating this with wisdom, by not observing this simple pattern of existence, then we suffer needlessly, because we're always eating, tasting the flavor of death and loss and despair. It's always slightly off, or at worst, it can be really horrible, tainted, or it's not ever really satisfying. So in this way of reflecting, not to be morbid about life, but pointing out, in this way that this, what we're experiencing, this physical body, its breathing and its feeling and its aging and so forth, is not self. It is what it is, and it's, to be seen, to be recognized with wisdom rather than with ignorance and then the inevitable suffering we create around the changing conditions. So in my own practice, there's the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned. Therefore there is escape from the born, the created, the formed, the conditioned. So, just when life gets difficult, problematic, old, unsatisfactory, stressful, that's the taste of the world. Really taste it, don't just struggle against it or wallow in it or try to suppress it or ignore it, but taste it. Don't blame it on anybody, or, that's a way of kind of not tasting the world by saying it's somebody's fault because it doesn't taste good. But the world is like this. It's stressful. It's unsatisfying. It's always about this. It's about death, loss, despair. And that's the flavor of all conditions, are impermanent, sape sangha anicca. There is an escape, though. There is an escape from the born, the created, the formed, the conditioned, because there is the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned. So what's the flavor of the unconditioned? Now this is discerning. It doesn't have a flavor. It doesn't taste like anything, but it is reality itself. And so this way of mindfulness is discerning, knowing the world tastes like this. The unconditioned is like this. And it's not suffering, it's not death, it's not me, it's not about me or you or what I think or feel or these things, these conditions operate because of karma, but there's a knowing, a discernment of the deathless, the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned. This is it. It's recognizable. It's real. It's not just a foggy metaphysical theory. So the Buddha wasn't, speculating about ultimate reality or, proclaiming all kinds of philosophical interpretations about ultimate reality. Notice the very terms the Buddha used: unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned. They're just a negation of born, created, formed, conditioned. And so this is what is the unborn, uncreated? What is it at this very moment? If there's escape from the born, if there's escape from the body, they were all sitting here with our bodies in whatever condition they happen to be in at this moment. Well, the body's a condition. It's conditioned, isn't it? And it's going to die. And so, what is the unborn then? This is born, physical body's born. What is the unborn? And it's a way of reflecting. These are like questions to ask yourself. It's not about some kind of intellectualizing about the unborn. It's not a thought. But the escape, there is the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned. What is it? In terms of, from this point here, sitting, this body sitting here, certainly not the body, not thoughts, not emotions. But then mindfulness, isn't it? Mindfulness is the escape hatch. That's the only possibility there is in this realm of the born, the created, the formed, the conditioned. I mean, it does seem hopeless, when you just try to think about it and analyze it and speculate about it, because the thinking process is born, created, formed, conditioned. You can't recognize unborn with thoughts. You can't analyze it. It's not a thought, so thoughts, you have to give up thoughts and definitions and doctrines and all the rest, just pure awareness in the present. Ultimate simplicity. This is so simple. Just this attentiveness in the present. Well, and for me, it means it's very, because I've done this for so many years. At first I get lost in my own tendencies to want to analyze and think and figure it all out and get caught in doubt and then want to define in my mind, because I've been educated, so I'm programmed to think about things, and reality has to be defined. You have to have a definition. You have to have words and concepts and authorities. You have to go to authorities about what reality really is, and so forth, so that the personality, the tendency, the habit tendency of an educated person is like this. But then, you end up just doubting, never being quite sure, doubting the authorities, doubting yourself. So the escape hatch then isn't through analysis or forming views and opinions or through just believing what authorities tell you, but in awakened attention. It's just the most simple reality of the present. So this is like consciousness. This experience where we're all conscious forms. Each one of us is experiencing consciousness through a form, through the body. So just pointing it out the way it is. In this moment, each one of us we're conscious, there's consciousness, but we're limited in the form. We have this human body sitting here, and it's conscious form. And in consciousness, then you can't define it. Because you are that. I mean, it's not something that you can objectify, but you can certainly recognize. And then one way of recognizing, just being aware of the body, in this presence of sitting, the pressure of sitting on the mat, like this. There's consciousness and awareness focused on the reality of this body as you experience it in the present moment is like this. And it's not personal. It's not about, me, how well I sit or don't sit or whatever. It's about just recognizing that, observing that which is aware of the body can't be aware of itself. Emotions your feelings can't be aware of the body. But consciousness and mindfulness, then the body is recognized. It's like this. Now what's that about? So can you claim consciousness as some kind of personal quality? Is my Ajahn Sumedho consciousness is separate, my consciousness and your consciousness? Then I'm using words again. I'm using the pronouns, English pronouns. My consciousness, your consciousness. Fair enough, this is a way of talking and thinking, but is it really the way it is? When I talk about me and you, is this more just convention, language, and the limitation we have through thinking and through grammar? So then mindfulness, sati sampajanya, is the ability that each one of us has to embrace the totality of this moment. Not just focused on one thing. The body is a reflection, but in sati sampajanya, it's ability to embrace the moment in its totality. It's not, so the object of the present moment is the totality, not the one thing, just the body or the shrine or the whatever. It's not a thing anymore. As one object that one focuses on. So this sense of this embracing consciousness includes everything. Even within the fact that we are limited in form, but consciousness is not unlimited. But we have to experience the unlimited from the limitation of a form. So what is that? What do I mean by that? You can't explain it, but you can certainly reflect on it. So what I'm doing now is merely just trying to stimulate you to reflect on being, alive, breathing, feeling, and consciousness combined with mindfulness and wisdom. Because this is the escape hatch. There is the escape from the born, the created, the formed, the conditioned, because there is the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned. No, I think that's fantastic. Because it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, this kind of way of reflecting is available to us. Because certainly I personally would never come up with this kind of, it's beyond me as a personal, my own kind of personal karma and tendencies. It's through this excellent teaching of the Buddha. But it certainly is, a teaching that one can use in a very practical way to reflect on the reality, ultimate reality, to recognize it, and to then have perspective on birth and death. And so this is a death realm. This realm is all about death. Everything, we all have to die. Death is what we all will experience when the time comes, the physical death. We all have to experience the death of friends, of parents, of pets, of all kinds of things, just before we die. And that's grief, isn't it? We have to live and then experience loss, the death of parents, grandparents, relatives, our own children, everything, the pets. We feel grief when our beloved cat dies. We can make fun of that but it's real grief, isn't it? Because one gets, very attached. One can feel great affection, love, and attachment to a cat or a dog, to a parakeet. A goldfish. So one time I was visiting my sister in San Diego, and she is grief-stricken because her favorite rose died. And she was crying. And I said, "What's the matter? What happened?" "My rose." So I thought, my God, grief over a rose, But, who am I? Maybe I wouldn't particularly feel that, but my sister's certainly feeling grief over that. What is it then? The loss of something maybe you've nurtured, you've grown very fond of, you love, whether it be like a rose or a cat or dog or a friend, whatever. It's like this. Grief this is a realm of grief, of loss, separation. All that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become separated from me. Now the Buddha was, pointing out this is what life's about. It's not trying to be morbid and negative and about existence, but it's pointing to this realm, to look at it in a different way than expect it to be something it can never be. That's what's so absurd about our lives, is we're trying to perfect the imperfect, trying to find immortality in the mortal, trying to find security in the insecure, trying to find eternal youth and beauty in conditions that can only change. They have no permanent ability to sustain the peak of anything. So it's so that this awakenedness, it's a compassion awakenedness. It's not a morbid reflection, a kind of negative view of life, but it's a compassionate pointing at the way things are, so that we can cope with the changing conditions. We have, human individuals, we can take pain and grief and loss and disease and humiliation and despair and disappointment and all the rest. All these things are bearable. That's the taste of the world. When we know the world is a world, then we we can cope with the way it affects this form, the conditions that impinge and that affect me. The success, the failure, praise, blame, and all the rest. The vipaka karma, in other words, of this form, whatever it might be, health or good health, bad health, success, failure, praise, blame, good fortune, bad fortune. These are all bearable because one can see them in terms of Dhamma rather than in terms of ignorance. I don't want my loved one to die. I want our love to last forever, for eternity. And so you hear these romantic images of our love will last forever and ever, forever and ever and ever. And on and on like that. It's the kind of wish, isn't it? But and then we're going to be disappointed because that's not the way it is. We can become cynical, disillusioned, embittered because life isn't what we want it to be, what we expected or hope life will be for us. So the awakenedness is not about trying to paint everything pink and pretend that everything will be a beautiful pink forever, but tasting this, what ignorance is of wanting, not wanting, fearing, desiring, dreading, and all the rest, the human emotions that we all experience, to recognize that the taste of the world is a taste of death, of loss. That's why it can't be any other way. But our awakening to that, knowing the world is the world, then the beauty of the world can be enjoyed without being grasped. Kiss the joy as it flies, is Blake's poem. He who binds to himself a joy doth the winged life destroy. So it's like when we try to hold on to joy and love and happiness and romance and youth, isn't it? He who binds to himself a joy. That's what ignorance is of each, isn't it? I want to be young forever. I want beauty. I want happiness, good health, the beautiful side, and bind it to me. Hold on, grasp it, embrace it, and try to hold it and keep it. doth the winged life destroy. The good reflection, he who binds to himself a joy doth the winged life destroy. Winged life, isn't it? It's not about holding on to something that you like and want, or joy, holding on to joy. You destroy it. You kill the joy. Become a killjoy. But he who kissed the joy as it flies lives in eternity, sunrise. So, and this is a beautiful image, isn't it? Joy is part of life, It's not joy is something bad, or we shouldn't recognize it or see it in negative terms. It's not a rejection, but it's like a kiss. Kiss the joy as it flies. Let it go. Don't try to hold on to life and what you want and the beauty and that we experience in life, but kiss it as it flies, lives in eternity, sunrise. I found that a very good reflective poem, William Blake, It's quite Buddhist, really. So you see, all the misery of life is trying to hold on to things, bind to ourselves the joy, and of course we're only going to fail at it. It can't be. It's impossible. So, when we're young, we're naive, we don't know any better. But if we don't awaken, if we don't meditate and observe, then as we get older, we just become bitter, cynical, disappointed, depressed, because, when we're young, we're expecting, speaking for myself, I was expecting, when I was young, I was expecting life to, I was going to live my life and, I could see my parents, I didn't want to live like them. I was going to do better than they did. Only, what a disappointment. Age 30, I'd failed. 20, I had great hopes. By age 30, I was a cynic. Life wasn't what I wanted, and I didn't succeed in binding the joy to myself at all. In fact, I became quite embittered and cynical. So then because of this good fortune, good karma I have of this fascination, this infatuation, this love for the Buddha's teaching, and of course this gave me a chance to put all this into perspective, my suffering, my disappointment with myself, with life, with the world that I lived in. So the taste the world, taste it. Don't be, don't go around fighting against it or putting it down. Just the world, when you feel bad or feel confused or despairing or disillusioned or whatever, taste it. It's like this. Really, feel it, taste it. So the world is this way. Conditioned phenomena is like this. And then, that which is aware of the tastes of the world. And that means you're tasting, you're recognizing, taste the world like this, but that which recognizes the taste. And that's a discerning ability, mindfulness. That doesn't have a taste, but it's real. And it's non-suffering. It's the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned. Therefore, there is the escape from the born, the created, the formed, the conditioned. Now, this is a time where, the ominous signs of, the climate change, the overpopulation, there's so many ominous signs now, that every day you hear of, of course the media report everything, when some remote island in the Pacific Ocean we hear about it, where maybe 50 years ago, 100 years ago, I wouldn't know anything about it. Now we know everything. Every dismal thing that happens is news. There is a huge human population on this planet, and there are endless problems. Both, in every way, personal, societal, economic, political, everything. The world is a problem. That's its very nature. It's problematic. It's unsatisfying. And so there are solutions to problems, but then there are other problems. So even though you might find a solution for one thing, then there's another one. Because that's the nature of the world, the changing conditions. You can't kind of control it and arrange it so that it suits you. All you can do really is observe it. And so the escape hatch is the mindfulness, the observing, not the condition. Do the best we can with the conditions we have, so that not to be despised, but don't expect the conditioned realm, don't expect it to satisfy you, or to be, something that you can bind to yourself and keep as a kind of petrified, beautiful experience. So this beautiful image, kiss the joy as it flies. It means that the joy of life is something to, that we recognize, we appreciate, but we don't grasp. We let things go. We let conditions change according to their nature. We're not control freaks anymore. We don't have to make everything right and arrange everything properly and make everything, what we think it should be. We can do the best we can, but in terms of, just like moral principles of non-violence and personal, how to live our lives on this planet in these forms is like 5 precepts, 8 precepts and onward. Determining to use our existence within this form, this limited form, so that it is a form that with intention to do good and refrain from acting on negative impulses or do harmful things with intention. So tomorrow is Sunday, and Chitter's Katina, so I'm getting up early, leaving 5 o'clock in the morning to go to Chitter's, and so I won't be sitting up because I've got to be bright and inspiring for the chitters to continue. Because now I'm in my swan song mode. You know, I've been to 2 katinas already, saying goodbye, and now I've got 2 more. Chitters then here. And then the day, this body, bye-bye, out the gate. And so this is life, isn't it? The coming, because I came here, then I'm leaving. I mean, this is just the natural flow of phenomena. And then, you know, what's left is a memory. And then even now, and when I go back to my kuti, what will I be if you're still sitting here and I'm in my kuti? I'm a memory there's a memory of me, maybe you remember Ajahn Sumedho. But that's a memory, that's not anything real. It's a sanya sankara memory. So there's a way of reminding yourself that you know, are we really people? You know, is there a real kind of permanent Ajahn Sumedho? You know, kind of, you know, real substantial, essential Ajahn Sumedho that exists, or is it sanya sankara, impermanent condition, anatta? And these are like the tools the Buddha gave us to reflect on the way it is. It doesn't diminish. You know, it's not like trying to deny feelings or emotions, but it's putting them in a context we can deal with them and see them and learn from them. So there's the conventional reality of Ajahn Sumedho. And so, you know, I have a passport, and, you know, in terms of the conventional reality, I am Ajahn Sumedho. But in terms of Dhamma, that's merely conventional reality. That's a perception. You know, that's sanya sankara, khandha. And so, like this way of reflecting helps us to, you know, it isn't to deny or suppress feeling, but to keep instructing ourselves with wisdom. So we become more confident, more informed of reality, more present in it. You know, reality is now, it's not personal. And so this kind of practice that the Buddha gave us, you know, it's really, you know, it leads you onward to that, to a real recognition of anatta, non-self. Because the self is, you know, we can, you know, get very, you know, personal relationships and personal feelings, and the self becomes so, you know, our reality. What I think, my feeling and my view, my opinion, it becomes so real, so powerfully convincing. You know, that what I think and me and my life is so, you know, is something really solid, you know, important, serious business. Or is it? So it's like through this reflective style, and actually you keep reminding, the more you remind yourself of this, after a while, because every time you remind yourself, you're actually awakened at that point. You're in, that's it. Even though you might get lost in your own problems the next moment. But you're breaking through you're breaking down the cycles, the momentum of your karma, of your ignorance, through this kind of recognizing here and now, the silence, sound of silence, the feeling, the emotion, the physical sensation, emotional experience that you're having at this moment is like this, and that awareness. And the world is like this. And then that which is aware of the world is not the world. It's this. So then you discern non-suffering. Non-suffering is bliss. Or suffering isn't. Suffering is not blissful, by the way. So I offer this for your reflection.